Well, for a little bit more on this, we're now joined by Monageng Legae, who's the CEO at Sopema Funeral Services, and a medical student who's unemployed at this time, Nkateko Muyimane. To both of you, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome.
Good evening and good evening to the viewers.
Nkateko?
Good evening, thank you.
All right, let me start with you because a lot of people might not understand how a fifth-year medical student might be counted as unemployed. Tell us your story.
All right, so round about last year, around this time, on the 24th of February, I was caught up in the Ukrainian-Russian war. So because of that, I had to come back to South Africa. But I don't feel like that stopped me from really withholding my studies. I ended up volunteering at the Klapani Hospital, which is a local hospital in Limpopo, Tzaneen. And yeah, I've been on the process of trying to find a school, which I feel like is similar to many South Africans who are looking for employment post-graduation. It's very competitive and tough, yeah.
So for as long as the war in Ukraine is going on and you can't get into a med school here in South Africa, you're in limbo essentially.
Not really. So the Department of Higher Education, around about during this time, has scholarships. This one that I found was a stipendium Hungarian scholarship to Hungary, excuse me. It's for 100 students. I did my interview at the University of Limpopo about 2 weeks ago. I hope the process goes well, but even getting such opportunities of finding them is hard because of load shedding, etc. Many South Africans don't have internet connectivity, so they have to go to internet cafes or libraries, and that's difficult with the power cuts, etc. Yeah.
All right. So that's a young person who's unemployed at this stage, hoping for employment in the future. But there are so many doctors, more than 1,000 in South Africa, who don't have jobs at the moment. But small business have been affected as well, and we find that out now from you, Mr. Legae. Tell us about how small businesses have been affected, even though these employment figures are improving slightly. Businesses like yours have been suffering. Tell us a little bit about that, and because you employ so many people as small businesses.
I think the stats that you've just read out, actually, we as an industry, and I quote the whole industry as the funeral practitioners, we need to be thanked because some of those seasonal workers find themselves in our space, and we are the people who are aiding in the decreasing of those unemployment numbers. But for the government, we are only an essential service when they need us. We are crippling, and it was firstly the COVID pandemic, which really took over this country, but also having an issue that we as an industry had to find ourselves and find our feet without the government, without any non-financial support coming from ensuring that we procure those PPEs, procuring additional storages, because that's the numbers that we were really facing. And now we are having a situation where load shedding, it's now taking over. That is those things that are now happening that are crippling our businesses even worse. And we are really calling on the government. And as Sopema Funerals, we are also really saying to the government, we need to make sure that you are coming on the plate and really be at the forefront. You cannot just be an imposing, but without giving. You need to make sure that we are the people at the receiving end and making sure that we are able to benefit out of what we are currently seeing. So if you are talking about numbers and unemployment going down, even if it's a slight, but actually go and focus as to where is it coming from. We, as an industry, we employ over 80,000 seasonal casual workers that we call. And that's where we are saying those numbers are coming from an informal business, small businesses that look like us, who are the living bread in the communities that we live in. But now with this load shedding, we had to, and 2 weeks ago, we had to do a rallying call to our families and really pleading with them that you need to lessen the days of burial. So if you were burying within 7 days, go and bury within 4 days. That is not done because of we want to triumph on tradition, but it's because of the unaffordable cost of diesel, the unaffordable cost of running a generator 24 hours. Those are things that are crippling us, that we need to ensure that our people at wherever they are sitting, the stakeholders themselves, are actually understanding that this is not really manageable anymore.
You talk about seasonal work, casual jobs. The statistics there are suggesting there's been an improvement. Are you signing up more permanent jobs at this stage or not?
Look, Mr. Ndoro, you know, you can sign up permanent jobs, but if you can't sustain them, it becomes another problem. So you can imagine that the permanent jobs that come through, but when you then have a 30,000 bill a week of diesel, as opposed to somebody who is now employed 24 hours, it becomes very difficult that you need to make a choice. Are you keeping this lights on, or are you keeping this person's job on? And those are the kind of decisions that we end up, being unsupported as we are, have to make at the end of the day.
Nkateko, let me come back to you. You're a young person, so you have a lot of young people around you, particularly where you are now, which is kind of out of the major metro areas. And I just wonder, with the young people around you, what are they saying? Because what the statistic doesn't tell us is that the young people are the most affected in terms of the unemployment figure.
Definitely, that's very true. I have a personal experience of a friend who happened to go back to school at the beginning of this year. She had graduated with the BSc in biotechnology. And having a degree and a master's degree, you know, it was very difficult for her to find work. And then that plays a toll on you mentally. You know, I think more government policies should be implemented, especially in high schools with the youth, where, you know, they're taught entrepreneurship because they can't, or most people in my area can't afford tertiary education. It would maybe bridge the gap, as well as the government helping us with mentors, you know, people, as we're saying, with entrepreneurship. If you're going to help us get entrepreneurship, give us the proper skills to develop the entrepreneurship skills and to flourish, and to hopefully fund ourselves to get university admission or go overseas or abroad.
One figure that's also very difficult to measure is those of people who've given up looking, who've just said, look, forget it, I'm never going to get a job, and they just lounge around. Are you meeting a lot of young people who've just said, I've given up, there's no hope, I'm not going to bother?
Definitely, yes. As I said, it plays a mental toll on you heavily. You know, you end up giving up because of the pressure of not submitting application on time, due to not having transport to either get to internet cafes or libraries, because you don't have internet connectivity due to load shedding. I think that's a major issue, as well as activities. You know, I think also postgraduate classes should be given to postgraduate candidates, so that they can maybe figure out different avenues to try and up their game in terms of finding jobs or submitting applications, or, you know, just in the process of job hunting.
Mr. Legae, the president, when he was doing the State of the Nation address, talked about cutting red tape and making it easier for businesses to do what they do. What kind of regulations and red tape have you had to overcome and could still be taken out so that you can make it easy to employ young people?
You know, I think we are still to see that advisor of red tape that had been appointed to see as to what actually red tape have they cut in the industries. But our industry more concerning, because at the moment we are seeing more and more regulations coming through, as opposed to how do you assist us in ensuring that we are able to deal with what is currently happening. You know, we run a family business, has been spending over for 35 years. We are the third generation. We had a very difficult task at the COVID pandemic, where we actually thought that this business is going to fall in our hands, where we had to now find mechanisms and ensuring that we are ensuring that the dignified manner that our people are used to, it's always taken care of. I think the biggest thing that our people have, and misconception be it, is that people will always pass away. Oh, the funeral parlors will always make their money. But that's different, because our profits or our turnover is made out of people who actually pay their premiums on a monthly. So it's not about death. Our business is not death. Our business is actually people living. So if I were to make an example about you, Mr. Ndoro, is that we want you living. We want you keeping on paying your premiums, because that is the only source of income that will ensure that the business continues. Death will come, but what has actually been taken care of, which was life itself and you paying, it's what it is. But because of those red tapes, and we talk about the FSCA, we talk about health, we talk about different stakeholders that are currently being coupled and making sure that they just make the process more and more stringent. Please do not mistake the fact that we don't want to be regulated. We don't want to actually follow any laws, but we are saying, over and above you putting those laws, are you now actually understanding the cost that is vis-a-vis the regulations that you are putting through? Is that sustainable to ensure that there's middle guy, the small guy, because that's what we are. We are middle guys for the underwriters, for the insurers. Are we able to survive in ensuring that the 100 people that Sopema Funerals hires as permanent employees are able to be taken care of at all times? Are we taking... Now, those kind of things are things that will actually go out of and spiral out of our hands if we are currently not dealing with what we have. And we are calling on the president right now to say that the red tape that has been here, we are seeing it. There's a regulation 363 that's for the funeral parlors. That regulation has now been reviewed, and everything that has been reviewed, it's money. It's spending more. They are now asking us for vehicles that need to have a certificate of competence. And those are the kind of things that we are saying to our people. We are not in any way opposed to ensuring that we comply. At what cost are you asking for that compliance?
All right. Nkateko, I'm just wondering, and I'm looking ahead. I mean, you're a fifth-year medical student, which means you're not far off from qualifying. Are you fearful, though, that when you come back, you may not find a job, because there are literally over 1,000 doctors in the country that are unemployed right now?
Not really. I think that's why I opted more for an international qualification. Most of the European medical schools offer you the ability to either write the USMLE or participate in any other, the British Medical Examination Board, the New Zealand Examination Board, Switzerland, etc. So I think I'm quite safe. I think my mind has been broadened enough to understand that there are other opportunities out there. I think it just takes the resources to be able to look up on the internet, what other options do you have, and not to give up hope.
So just to get,
a lot of students are just sitting.
All right. Just to get it right, are you suggesting that you're probably going to work overseas then and not come back home?
I was thinking of New Zealand, yes. I think the social structure for medicine and medical workers is much better. From my experience volunteering at the company hospital, it's quite difficult to treat patients from a doctor's point of view because you don't have certain equipment like MRIs, CT scans. It makes it very hard to diagnose the patients. And the poor care on the patients is also very hard. It's very hard for them to find proper quality medical care. So I think for myself, I'd rather go to New Zealand get the proper knowledge, the proper skills and qualifications, and then hopefully come back and then practice as a private medical professional, build my own facilities, that are properly qualified and structured to help both the doctor and the patient.
Wow. All right. Well, we wish you the best with especially the longer term ambition to come home one day and build up the medical sector here. Ntate Legae, the youth are the most unemployed in South Africa. So my question to you directly is, are you doing your bit to employ the youth, or is it too expensive and therefore you look for experienced labor?
Peter, thanks for asking that, because myself, I am part of the youth league,
Yes.
if I were to call it that. So it makes it easier because you understand as to what the journey looks like. You understand what your peers that you went to school are currently going through. So it makes it easier when I then speak of recruitment and the kind of caliber of people that you want to bring on. But now here's the problem, and with this country, the more younger that you recruit, the more difficult it becomes, and ensuring, because again it's a culture thing, it's making sure that people are, they call it job satisfaction, but we try at all costs, but there's a cost associated to all that. But I guess personally and as the organization, we actually really push to ensuring that our workforce is of a youthful nature because of the channel that we understand and the strategy that we understand, that going the youthful manner will assist us in ensuring that we are alleviating the poverty in this country.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your efforts, and let's hope that yours will rub off onto other organizations.
But as we are saying that, let the stakeholders come onto board. Let's make sure that we are able to hold each other accountable, but making sure that we are understanding the costs and outcomes that one wants, because that's what it is. Our people put the regulations, but they don't know what kind of outcomes or the KPIs that need to be put in place. And that's where the whole line breaks.
All right. Monageng Legae, CEO of Sopema Funeral Services, thanks for your time. Nkateko Muyimane, medical student, doctor in training. Best of luck with your placement and also qualifying, and come back home when you're done with your training and your experience. Thanks so much and good luck.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you for your time.